would like to end our time of meditation by our saying together a Buddhist loving kindness prayer. We say this 3 times together. I'll say a line and then you say the line if you choose to. The first time through, we say this for ourselves. May I be free from danger.
May I be free from danger.
May I be mentally happy.
May I be mentally happy.
May I be physically happy.
May I be physically happy.
May I have ease of well-being.
May I have ease of well-being.
The second time we say this for someone we love. May you be free from danger.
May you be free from danger.
May you be mentally happy.
May you be mentally happy.
May you be physically happy.
May you be physically happy.
May you have ease of well-being.
May you have ease of well-being.
The third time, as a spiritual stretch, we say this for someone against whom we have a resentment. May you be free from danger.
May you be free from danger.
May you be mentally happy.
May you be mentally happy.
May you be physically happy.
May you be physically happy.
May you have ease of well-being.
May you have ease of well-being.
May it be so. We're going to practice this through the winter and into the spring, and when you know it, you will have another spiritual exercise or spiritual path to walk if you want to make this one of your practices. A loving kindness practice is very powerful. I started praying it for somebody I resented, and it started working, so I had to quit. But I'm sure I'm a much better person now than I was then, so I might try it again. So the text for this sermon is this poem that you heard right before the meditation by Antonio Machado. And I want to read you the middle part again because that's the part I'm going to be talking most about. And don't worry about the words changing a little bit. If some of you have a copy of it, there are copies out there if you want them as you leave, but the translations differ. Last night while I was sleeping, I dreamt, blessed illusion, that I had a beehive within my heart, and golden bees were going about inside it, concocting white wax and sweet honey out of old failures. I did a chalice circle lesson on failure for our chalice circles that we have meeting here, our small group discussion groups. When I did this for my church in South Carolina, usually the chalice circles there were pretty happy to go along with whatever topic I dreamed up. I wrote all the lessons for them. So each month I would dream up a topic, something that interested me. And one month I gave them a lesson on failure to discuss. And this one chalice circle actually telephoned me at home and said, Meg, this is too depressing. We don't want to do this one. Do you have anything else? And I said, well, no, I don't, but you can make up your own if you want to. It's fine. You don't have to do this one at all. But they ended up doing it, and it was okay, they said. They did not call me back, but they emailed. It was okay. I think that our failures loom unexamined, full of dread. And when we actually look at them full on, they shape-shift a little bit into something different. For most of our failures, they shape-shift into something less threatening, less awful. The people that I know who have failed completely and miserably in every area say that life after that is less scary. They've hit rock bottom, and so they know what's there. It's demythologized. It's lost. It's formless, nameless dread. They know what it feels like. They know what it smells like. They know that they pretty much survived, or that part of them didn't survive, and the rest of them did, and they're different now. I have a friend who lives in Nashville who said she won't date any guy who doesn't have his bottom certificate. She's like, he's got to have hit rock bottom, and then I know that we'll have something in common that we can talk. Marianne Williamson, who is a very famous spiritual teacher, she says, nervous breakdowns are highly underrated ways to achieve spiritual enlightenment. I think once you've failed miserably, you can face the next thing with more courage, maybe with more aplomb. You have good odds of being more compassionate toward other people afterwards. There's really no one so rigid as a person who's never failed at anything. Failure can make you more supple in your approach to life, less rigid. So, this last week, I was thinking back on my life to try to survey my failures. For the last 3 days, I've been struggling with this new thing called cedar fever that we didn't have in South Carolina. And so I was thinking about failure like this. What was I? So I hope this sermon makes sense. I thought, I'm surveying my failures, but I can't really find any that fit into the word exactly, because I've learned to think about failure from reading Thomas Edison, who said, I'm not discouraged because every wrong attempt discarded is another step forward. It's just information. And he also said, I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that don't work. Which I love. But, before I found Edison, my writing was the place I felt my failure the most. Because when you're a writer, you send your pieces out to publications. And I would get letters back that said, Dear Ms. Barnhouse, we have read your pitiful attempt at a story. And we have to say that really, it would be better if you never again attempted to write. You are also ugly. It also would probably be better if you had never been born. And that really hurt. And then I would read it again, and it said, thank you for sending this. It doesn't fit with what we're trying to do at this time. I have found some ways that don't work for me. I failed to stay with the Presbyterian Church, even though I really gave it my best shot. 3 years in seminary and 15 years as a Presbyterian minister. But even in seminary, I would lose my faith regularly, and I would lie in bed in dramatic and delicious despair, and I would say to my roommate and then my fiancé, I don't understand. How does somebody dying for my sins make my sins go away? What are my sins? Anyway, I'm a nice person. I tried my best. How many sins? And they would say, okay, let's go from the beginning. We're all miserable sinners. And then the good news is that we're saved. So first the bad news that I didn't believe, and then the good news that I didn't believe. But I tried. But I don't see that as a failure, because it was just something that didn't work, and I left it behind and I'm on to the new thing, which does work. I failed at my marriage. Oh, it lasted 17 years though, so that's pretty good. And just because something doesn't last forever doesn't mean it was all a waste. It was good, and then it ended when he voted for Bob Dole. I'm really not making light of that. There were many other reasons, of course. I just don't believe in preachers overexposing themselves from the pulpit. But the marriage doesn't feel like a failure, and we have 2 wonderful sons, and so that's a success. So how is that a failure? It doesn't fit. So I find myself wondering if the things that we label failures really are failures. Do we call ourselves a failure when we got a B instead of an A? I know, yes, you do. I'm like that too. I think a lot of failures, real failures, happen when we ignore the voice inside ourselves that is guiding us, and it says, go this way, and you go, oh no, but my dad really wants me to go this way, or my society really wants me to go this way, or I can't disappoint my grandmother. When we do something that's against our sense of authenticity, we fail. It's information. When you talk yourself into doing something that you know you shouldn't do, trusting somebody you know you shouldn't trust. And maybe you feel a failure when you're not doing something the way perfection would do it. If perfection were walking beside you doing the same thing you're doing, which it's not, because it doesn't exist. Another possible translation of the word failure in the Spanish poem is bitterness. So it would read like this: the golden bees were going about inside my heart, concocting white wax and sweet honey out of old bitterness. Failure is a pretty dualistic word. You either fail or you succeed. You either did it or you didn't do it. And bitterness is more organic, like life. It's got to do less with something outside you than with something you continue to choose inside yourself. So I think bitterness might be an even better way to think about it, because bitterness and failure have a lot of overlap. You feel bitter when you fail about the situation, about the people you worked with that didn't tell you what you needed to know, or about your own inadequacies that didn't get you where you needed to be, or you feel bitterness because you had a picture of how it was supposed to go and it didn't go that way. In the 12-step program they say expectations are premeditated resentments. So it's like if you have an expectation, especially if you don't share it with the other person, it's almost like you're waiting to have a good old juicy resentment to hold on to. You set it up that way. And by you, I mean me. So, I love the picture of the bees browsing over the old failures and old bitternesses, extracting the essence from them and carrying that back to the hive. Do you know this? I learned this week too. Bees take the nectar from honey and then they put it into their honey stomach. They've got 2 different stomachs. And they keep it in their honey stomach, and then when they go back to the hive, other bees, who are the chew up the honey bees, they, in ways that doesn't bear thinking about, they transfer the honey to the other bee in some way. And the chewing bees chew on it for like half an hour until the water is out of it. And their enzymes make it into this paste, and then they put the paste in the honeycomb, and then they use their wings to fan it dry. So there's a lot of processing that goes on when you get the essence out of your failures and your old bitternesses. Somehow these bees inside just chew on it and dry it and make honey out of it. So how can you make honey from those? I spent time like this. How do I make honey out of it? Got failures. Got to get honey. How do I do that? So I reread this book called When Smart People Fail. Very interesting book, and it talks in a kind of a chirpy way about looking over your failures, and this person thought they failed, but it was really turned into this, and how you have to kind of retell the story. You tell the story in a different way. You redefine your failures. You say, well, it wasn't really a failure. I was getting my bottom certificate. I really had to go all the way down that road and hit bottom, and that was good information for me, and it made me who I am. Takes what it takes. So I'm not going to think of it so much as a failure as just a part of who I am. It's a mark of me on this life journey. And so then they talked about learning from mistakes, but none of that felt like where this text really was taking me. And I'm thinking, the poet is sleeping. He's sleeping. He's not using his, I am a firstborn Unitarian Universalist, intellectual, controlling, rational person who prefers logic. And so I think I am powerful enough to make honey out of my old failures. And I'm going to tell my church people how we make honey out of old failures. And I can't get it. I cannot get it. And then I realize he's sleeping. He's not doing this with his will. He's not doing this with his shiny, beautiful intellect. He's not doing this with his experience and his own strength. This is happening while he's asleep. So, I'm going to read you the whole thing again. It's happening while he's asleep. Last night while I was sleeping, I dreamt, blessed illusion, that a fountain flowed within my heart, and I said, by what hidden canal water are you coming to me, wellspring of new life where I'm not ever drunk? And last night while I was sleeping, then the bees verse. And then after that it says, last night while I was sleeping, I dreamt, blessed illusion, that a burning sun shone inside my heart. It was burning because it flashed embers of a red hearth. And it was sun because it gave light and because it made one cry. Last night while I was sleeping, I dreamt, blessed illusion, that what I had within my heart was God. So, all of this, I'm finally understanding, is happening in the mystery, which is my name for God. The word God is difficult for me, it might not be for you. So I'm saying all of this is happening in the mystery. It's happening beside my rational mind. It's happening beside all my trying and my orderly thinking and my attempts and strength, and it's just happening in the mystery over here while everything else in me is asleep or doing other things. That these are pictures. The mystery speaks to us in pictures. These are pictures of the mystery at work. This water breaking through, this red sun glowing with embers of home, these bees busily making honey out of bitterness. And it occurs to me that many of us have felt this shift in our consciousness, or shift in our spirit, or shift in our heart at times where we start seeing things differently from how we have been seeing them, or we understand something suddenly that we didn't before, or we meet someone that feels like home to us, and we make a connection and it's just different. There's something warming about it. And we didn't make that happen. We didn't do that. It happens in this place, in this space, in this mystery that exists beside our rational self. Carl Jung would call it the self with a capital S, the mystery, the part of you that you know and yet don't know, and that knows you and that loves you and that you don't control. And so I'm thinking that what this is saying is, when you feel exhausted, when you feel stale, when you feel played out, or that you've hit a wall, or confused, or that something has to change and you're not sure what, you can ask for this water of a new life to come breaking through. You can ask for this sun that feels like home. You can ask for the bees to do their work of making honey out of old bitterness. And you can know that all of this is happening inside you, and that it is on your side.